Are people really doing the best they can? And if so, what do we do with the harm that they cause? And is success always growth? Or is it just a distraction from unhealed trauma? Right. So these two questions triggered the out of me this week. I'm guessing I'm not alone. Let's get into it.
Southern Lesbian, traveling the globe again from London to California with a little bit of Carolina.
Welcome back, y'all. It is 2026. Y'all see what I got? Look at what I got for Christmas, y'all, from Santa Ashley. Isn't she cute? Will y'all help me name her? How were your holidays? Where'd y'all go? What'd you do? Do tell. But I'm serious about naming her. I need help. She needs a name. She's so pretty, and she's like this porous white. I don't want to touch her without gloves on because I don't want to get fingerprints. Anyway, whatever. So I did travel to the South for the holidays, y'all, and it was a lot of time spent with family, which was exactly what my heart needed. Exactly. And I'll tell you, you always get a little worked up about having to fly, especially internationally for the holidays, and a little concerned about what if there are delays and blah, blah, blah. Smooth sailing this time. I mean, there's always minor delays, which is fine. I always expect that at this point. But this time was pretty smooth sailing. But a couple funny things happened on the flights. So, you know how it takes your brain, or my brain, a minute to mentally process what your ears just heard? So I'm on the flight. It's early in the morning, and I'm going across the pond back towards the States. And towards the end of the flight, right at the end of the flight attendants it was on Virgin Air, so it's British attendants, and they're so well poised, and they just sound so much more mature than me. And they come up, and I'm half asleep with my eye mask and looks like a Snuggie. And they say, "Would you like some mints for your ears?" Well, it's a horrible, don't quote me on that, y'all. That's why I don't do impressions. But they asked me if I wanted mints for my ears, and I went, now why would I put a mint in my... I didn't get it. It took me a minute. I was half asleep. And then I went, oh, for the ear popping. Yeah, okay, right. But I literally stared at him for a minute so dumb, right? So anyway, then on the way back, coming back across this way, same thing. It's an overnight flight. So they're waking you up at 5:30 a.m. UK time and say to offer you something to eat, right? So in this case, once again, my brain takes a minute to process what I've just heard. So, they're coming around, they're offering chocolates. So in my brain, I'm thinking, it's Christmas. Okay, we're not going to get a chocolate bunny. We're probably going to get a chocolate bar, chocolate Santa or whatever. I hear them talking about chocolate. And they come up to me and they say, chocolate reindeer. I don't know why I found that bizarre in the moment, because I guess in the States we don't do a lot of chocolate reindeer. It's just not, I don't know why this was a thing to me, y'all, but I laughed and I just looked at him like, what are you talking about? But they do. They have the little, I think Lindt makes them, and they're beautiful, and they're gold foil wrapped. And anyway, they were handing them out because it was Christmas Day when I was flying back. So anyway, I don't know why. I just found it really funny. That's a stupid story, isn't it? Right? But a little insight into my brain and the slower processing that sometimes it takes. Anyway, guessing that is not why y'all are here. But at the same time, you know how in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 90s, I mean, that was the era where I was starting to really drive to a professional job the most and whatnot. There were the morning talk shows. I'm sure they still have them, but who listens to a lot of radio anymore, right? I mean, now it's podcasts. But back then, talk radio, those talk shows in the morning were a big deal. And I'm just wondering, is that why y'all are here? You just want a familiar voice to lull you in the mornings while you're driving to work or talk you to sleep. I do put on podcasts sometimes at night just so I can hear a familiar voice when I'm falling asleep if I can't get my mind to slow down. Anyway, I don't know where that came from either. I'll stop ranting, y'all. Here we go. So my flight read that I was very excited to find was Brené Brown's Rising Strong, right? Because y'all know I've quoted stuff from this book before just from hearing her interviewed on Oprah's podcast. And I couldn't get the book here in the UK yet. So I was very excited, and I'm halfway through it now. I knew I'd have stuff to talk to y'all about after reading this book. And I just love her. I just think Brené is so real. And as a fellow Southerner, I don't know, I just really relate to her. I think she's a really cool lady. And she's someone that has grown up, in the Bible Belt and experienced similar things. And she's not gay, of course, but just hearing the way she processes relationships and trauma and all of it, I really dig her, and I really dig her take on a lot of things. But she raised this question, and she did a ton of research on this, okay? So I'm not here to take anything from Brené. It really made me stop and think, and I'll let y'all read the book and defer to what she says about this. She asked the question, do we really think that people are doing the best they can? And why this matters so much to our mental health. And I'll tell you. So my first reaction was, no, of course not. I mean, look what's happening in the world right now. Brené, there's a war, that's still going on from Russia to, whoever hears about that stuff anymore? I swear to God, the news is like from one, tragedy to the next. 2025 was a dumpster fire. But we made it through, and it was actually a very, very powerful year of growth and endings if you follow the spirituality of it. We'll get to that at some point. But anyway, some very powerful endings in 2025. So if you said goodbye to relationships, friendships, jobs that no longer served you, habits, ways of thinking that are detrimental to you, this was huge for 2025. The whole point of last year, again, if you believe the spiritual woo-woo, which y'all know I kind of do, it was literally to get you to stop believing certain things, right? So for me, a big one for me has been self-worth. I'm just going to tell y'all, it's been self-worth. I mean, I had the hardest time, however many years ago, 3 years ago, starting a podcast with somebody else, opening my mouth, talking. Again, now I tell you can't shut me up. But I still deal with the imposter syndrome. I still am shocked that y'all are here. I still wonder if I have anything worth saying. And I know that I do. I know that in my head, but it still gets to a lot of us, who are doing this. So anyway, 2025 was a year for me to grapple with some of this and say, can I really do this and move forward and make a living from this and from my creative writing, my scripts, the novels I'm starting, lesbian novels, y'all just wait, they're coming. I'm very excited for what's coming. But if I hadn't gone through the tests that 2025 gave me and the people who came at me and questioned me and asked me not to do it, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to really grapple with myself and look at what I really felt was true for me. It really was a year where I had to put priorities into full focus, and I had to lose some people because of that. I had to choose to stay here away from family because of that, because I know that this space allows me a lack of pressure in a lot of ways in order to focus on what I feel like is sharing what I've been blessed enough to learn through my healing journey, if you want to call it, my years of therapy, and share it with my community, because I feel that's very important. And just to build community with y'all, because it's important. And the way we're going and the way this world is going, regardless of how you feel about social media, community is really effing important. And it's not just going to be anymore me talking to y'all. As this year goes forward, I really want to find ways to use these tools and integrate them a little differently so that we can have group discussions. I don't know if Zoom's the best format for that, because what do I do with, hundreds of y'all on there at the same time with me? I don't know, but I am looking forward to figuring that out. And I know that YouTube has this feature called Community, but it's not quite what I was hoping it would be. This is something to think of, and y'all let me know as we're moving forward too, if you hear of cool tools and stuff out there, right? Anyway, back to the point, back to Miss Brené Brown, because this question I thought was so powerful. Do we really think people are doing the best they can? Well, as we know, it's twofold, right? But here's why it's important. It's not so much as to whether the people are doing their best or not. I think it's important as to how we perceive them, because here's what I learned over the holidays, y'all. I really got to put this into practice. So I'm going to tell y'all just a little bit of this, because, without delving into somebody else's personal details too much. I have a family member that I've had a very tough time with my whole life, right? And we never really spoke. I'm just going to tell y'all, it was my stepfather. It is my stepfather. We never really spoke very much. We have never had a relationship per se. He's the kind of guy that I always just would kind of acknowledge when I got there and kind of acknowledge when I left. We had a tough time when I was little. And my mom has always sort of been in the middle of that. Well, now my mom's gotten to a stage in life where she needs help. She needs a little bit more help than she did. And it's the first time in my adult life where I've just gone, you know what? I cannot with this anymore. Like, I don't care what he does. I have to set this down, because right now what's the most important is making sure that she gets the care she needs and that we're talking about it. What surprised me was that he dropped it like that also. The minute I started approaching him, engaging him, he followed suit. And the things that we were able to talk about and the kindness that we were able to have with each other is just a next level that I didn't expect. And it's really lovely. And I just thought, man, why didn't we do this years ago, you know? Well, a lot of reasons, but a big one being that I never believed he was doing the best he could do. And granted, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes in my growing up and my relationship with my parents, for sure. But that man has made a lot of mistakes. And he's told me that, and he told me he regrets them. And I get that. But it really heavily influenced how I felt about him growing up. And I never did think he was doing the best he could do. And this Christmas was the first time that I didn't stay in my mother's home with them. I stayed with my brother, and that was great. And I loved it. And we got some great one-on-one talks that we've never had, and it was awesome. But for the first time, I was able to sort of take a step back and just think about how my stepfather grew up with an alcoholic father who died from alcoholism, who died from cirrhosis of the liver, who had anger spells, who was very, I think, pretty strict on him. I've never asked a lot of questions because I didn't care. But I did see this man when I was younger. He was alive for a part of my childhood, so I did see him. And I knew how stern he was, and I knew he was always drinking. So, you know, it made a lot of sense. It answered a lot of questions for me, and I just went, you know what? I can have compassion, because I don't know what this man, my stepfather, dealt with on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if his father ever told him he loved him. I don't know. I don't know what demons he's had in his head that, granted, I don't think he's ever done a day of therapy in his life, but it's a different generation. We know how that previous generation of baby boomers treated therapy. You know, there was, honest to God, a shame around it, especially if you're in the South. The answer was always to go to church. And he did go to church, but I'm not sure he got the best answers there. Back to my point. Do you think this person is doing the best they can? Well, now I want to assume yes, he did. I want to. Because I know, looking at my own life and looking at mistakes that I made, even in 2025 in my relationships, I think that I did the best I could with the information I had at the moment, with the therapy tools I had at the moment. You know, if you don't have any tools, you can't do any better. Like Maya Angelou said, Brené Brown certainly referenced this quote in her book, when we know better, we do better. And if you don't know better, well, you could be choosing to be ignorant by not doing the work, which is never a good thing. But if you're here, you're not one of those people. You're just not. So if you're doing the work, you know better, you do better, right? So I have to assume that everybody's doing the best they can with where they are. I made apologies to a couple people this year that really needed to hear them. I still have a few more to go. Like, the more I learn, the more I grow, the more I go, oh, hell. I've done some things that I'm not proud of, and I've treated some people, even in the last few years, that I wish I hadn't said those things to, or I wish I hadn't cut them off so abruptly in the way that I did. Not everybody, but some people, you know. That's where I landed on that. I'll let you read the book to see where Brené landed on that. But what I will say that has done for me is it's just caused a lot more compassion. Do I feel that way about a lot of our political and world leaders? No, I do not. No, I do not. I don't feel like they're doing the best they can. So does this apply to everybody? I want to believe they're doing the best they can, but I really don't think they are. Yeah, when it comes at that much harm, like I said, what do we do with that harm that they cause us if we think they are doing the best that they can? Well, on a global stage like that, I say there is absolutely no excuse for that. Absolutely no excuse. How do you justify that? If you zoom down into our one-on-one lives, this is where boundaries come into play. Yet again, our old friend boundaries, right? So regardless of whether we think these people are doing the best they can or not, it helps me soften my heart and be compassionate towards them if I know that I'm capable of protecting myself against them and those harms. So in the case of me and my stepfather, I know as an adult that I have that ability. You know, little Ashley couldn't protect herself in the same way. Wasn't allowed to speak back. I mean, I did talk back a lot, y'all. I got in trouble a lot for my mouth. Shocking. But as an adult, those childhood fears absolutely still pop up. I mean, every time I go home, I'm still that kid. I'm still that little girl that walks into that room with him and hears his voice, looks at his face, you know, and feels a certain way and goes, you know, just I feel dysregulated. It's the best way I can describe it is I just feel dysregulated around him. And I know that for me, boundaries as an adult now looks like very short periods of time in the same room with him, very short conversations that are to the point, but are kind and calm. But I'm not his friend. I'm just not. I'm not sure that I'm ever going to be his friend. And that's okay. That's where I have to draw the line. I will help. I will be in conversation, but that is what it is for me. And that's where my line keeps me feeling safe. But the compassion of feeling like he's also doing the best he can makes me soften a little towards him, but his best hasn't been good enough for me. So I'm going to draw those boundaries. Does that make sense? So Brené Brown has this quote. Why do I point at y'all? I ask that every time. Anyway, Brené Brown has this quote in her book that I just wanted to read to y'all really quickly. Compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. There it is, y'all. There it is. Okay, so point number 2 that triggered the F out of me this week. So I follow this coach online named Brian Yang. Do y'all know him? He's great and I adore him, and he's got these just hard-hitting points that definitely resonate with me. I really like this guy a lot, right? But yesterday, I was listening to him and one just really triggered me and I was like, how dare you? And he basically said, the more successful someone becomes, the more likely they're running away from unprocessed trauma. I was like, how dare you? How do y'all feel about that? Now, he gave the example of Elon Musk. Well, yes, duh, you know? And there's a lot of other things going on with Elon, which I get, you know, he's likely autistic and he's like, but still, you don't get to behave certain ways. I'm not going to go political here, but how do y'all feel about that? This really triggered me personally. I'm going to talk about me because I've always had this calling ever since I was a kid to talk about certain things, to share certain things that I've learned. Like I grew up in the church and I sat in that church. I remember sitting there in like a youth study or whatever and watching the preacher in Atlanta. At the time was Andy Stanley. Y'all know Charles Stanley? Y'all know who that is? So Charles was the official pastor for the big church, but for the youth study, it was his son, Andy, and he was great. I really liked Andy Stanley. But I remember watching him and going, some of this stuff, I'm going to have to come back one day and let people know that's not true for the gay community. That is not where we are. That's not how I feel about the way God looks at us, right? That feels very personal to me. It feels like a very important calling to get on here and share this type of content with y'all. Even the silly TikToks, like all that representation to me matters a lot. The screenwriting that I do for the LGBTQ community, regardless if anybody's buying it or not yet, matters to me. It matters so much because I want to see those things that I didn't have growing up. So when I heard this quote, I was like, I'm going to try not to take it too personally, but that's why he's saying it, right? He's basically telling me that if I'm pursuing success this hard, that I've got unresolved trauma. So I had to sit back and think about that for a minute. And I'm like, okay, well, did I have trauma growing up? 1000%. We all know that. We all know that's exactly why I'm sitting here. But is that the reason why I pursue success? Well, yes and no. It is undeniably the reason that I feel so compelled to share this with the community. So, yeah. Do I feel that that is an unhealthy thing to do? No. He's basically saying that those people that have pursued a more steady, balanced life, not chasing their career goals, are the definition of true success. And I don't disagree with that either. I look at people that I know who have just kept these very steadfast jobs and have beautiful families, and that is their life. That is their life, their kids and all of that. And I look at them and I go, man, that's beautiful. And would I love to have that? In another lifetime, yes. In this one, no. No, that is not why I feel like I'm here. It's not why I feel like I incarnated. So I don't know. But I'm curious, what do y'all feel about that? I really had to stop and think on that one for a minute. I had to think, God, am I still running from something? Yeah, but it did trigger me, and it did give me a lot of pause. And I just wonder, like, how do y'all take that quote? What do you think about it? I'd love to hear your answers on both of these topics. And I need a name for her. So y'all got some work to do this week, just saying. Just some things to think about, because I can also see people, like I have examples of people in my life for sure who, I guess, staying busy chasing success. You know, I see that. I see the level of busy and the going after the money. And sometimes I wonder, is that more of just fear pushing you? Because we live in a society that, man, you know, I mean, money is necessary. It just is. No matter how spiritual, no matter how woo-woo you get, guru, you know, it's like we are incarnated in this human body, in this flesh, and we have to work to make a living. Trust me, you know, I would rather just be able to sit here and talk and not have to worry about making money. But that's not the case yet. As with anything, I look at the pursuit of success as, I don't want to say a tool, but it's almost like social media. You know, it's how you use it. It's where you put it in your priority of life, right? If you're using it to come on here and follow people to be inspired, I think it's great. If you follow the news channels and all the drama, well, you're going to get reflected back to you what you're looking at. So we have to be careful of that. We know that, right? Same thing for chasing success, right? I mean, how much is enough? That's a big question that I think spiritually, energetically, we're being asked right now during this time. How much is enough? Because we're looking at the billionaires that continue to pursue, but when's it going to be enough? What if they do get to the point where they're ruling this whole earth? Then what? Then they got to go to space, and they're going to run out of time. They're going to have to die at some point. But I mean, seriously, like, at what point does it end? At what point do we, globally as well as personally, say, I'm good with what I've got? Even this Christmas, my family, you know, we don't really exchange gifts anymore except for the kids. We buy stuff for the kids, but sometimes, you know, one of my brothers and my stepmom and I will still exchange, and we were asking each other, I'm like, I don't need a thing. There's not one thing on this earth that I feel like I still need. I have plenty of clothes. You know, I'm blessed to have a roof over my head. You know, I just want to spend time with you. That's it. Like, the older we get, the more precious that time with people we really love becomes. And fun experiences, you know, I mean, I love to travel. I love to just go to a fun restaurant with you or cook. I love to cook together. Going deep in conversation on topics like this. I love to sit down and just blah, 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 blah. Or my ex and I will say this was a fun thing. We used to just come up with stupid scenarios to make each other laugh and just being silly, singing together, whatever, stuff like that. Anything that's just engaging with the other person that you care about or people that you care about, right? So that's enough of my rant, y'all. I know, I just had to get that off my chest. Thanks for listening. If you want more rants like these and you're not already subscribed, please do so. I greatly appreciate it. It does help me very much if you do, because you don't miss an episode and, I get to share my rants with you. There is a TikTok community that is 10,000 plus strong now. So if y'all want to go over there, the content is different. It is more just silly little stuff mostly that I'm sharing there. So if you're looking for a giggle, head over to the TikTok page. I did recently start an Instagram page too, and she's limping, y'all. I don't know what it is about Instagram, but it's just a tougher community to develop for some reason. For me, YouTube and TikTok have been wonderful, and Instagram is just kind of I don't know, y'all. Anyway, that's where we be, so come check us out. If you have any other topic suggestions, put them in the comments. What do y'all want to talk about? I've got some interesting guests coming up down the pipe for y'all, so look forward to that and some exciting new things to share in 2026. So I am very grateful that y'all are here. Thank you so much, as always, for giving me, your precious time. It does not go unnoticed, and I greatly appreciate y'all. So thank you very much. Happy New Year to you. I'll see y'all next week here. Bye, y'all. Just a reminder, y'all, I'm not a doctor. Everything I share here is for entertainment and encouragement, not medical advice. The views you hear are mine or my guests, not my sponsors. Any similarity to real people is purely coincidence.